Pretty close. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We got our SEC over/under totals. Let's get this party started. We got first the Crimson Tide. So, how badly will they blow out every team on their schedule?
We have the Alabama Crimson Tide. They start their season at home against Utah State before going on the road to take on Texas Longhorns. Then they got UL Monroe, and they open SEC play against Florida or Vanderbilt. They've got number 19 Arkansas on the road. That could be a game, and they've got Texas A&M at home.
Big game there.
Before going on the road to take on the Tennessee Volunteers, where they will surely have mustard bottles thrown at them. Then they will play at home against Mississippi State before taking a two-game road trip to LSU and number 21 ranked Ole Miss before taking on Austin, PA in the Cupcake Week, and then Auburn, obviously, kind of will finish off the season. The over-under win total is 10.5, which means if you want to vote over, you can still take a shocking loss, and still be over. So it's no surprise that I'm going to be taking the over on this one. I think their only potential trip-up games are Arkansas, LSU, or Tennessee, just because the environments are hostile. Other than that, I see them as favorites in every single season. I see them blowing out every single team on their schedule. I have might be the whole thing that say there. The road against Ole Miss and everybody else.
Yeah, obviously, I have Alabama going undefeated. I mean, this team is as good as it gets. Um, as I always have, I do have the predicted scores on here as well. So, I mean, you can see I literally have Alabama blowing out every single team on his schedule, except for their game against Texas A&M. I do have that one as a 7-point game. But I really even have them blowing out Arkansas because I mean it's Alabama. And they beat Ellis or they beat why did I why am I blinking now? I do have them being a little closer with LSU simply because of the rivalry. A little closer against Ole Miss being on the road, and then I do have them killing Auburn because Auburn's bad. But yeah, 12-0 for Alabama. I think that's a pretty easy choice. So that's what I have for the Crimson Tide. Moving on to the Texas A&M Aggies.
We have Sam Houston State, Appalachian State, and Miami to round out the early non-conference. Then they play number 19 Arkansas before going on the road against Mississippi State and then on the road against Alabama before going into their bye week and then going on the road to take on Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks. And then you've got Ole Miss and Florida both at home before going on the road to take on Auburn and then finishing off with UMass and LSU. The over-under half. Yeah.
Wow.
I have them going comfortably over that. I have them as a 10-2 team. I think they could go 9-3 if they trip up, like say maybe against like Mississippi State or South Carolina. That's really it. Those are really the trip up games I see. Right now, I have them narrowly losing to Auburn in like a shocker, and then obviously I have them losing on the road to Alabama. I have them as a 10-2 team. That's what they be. They could be a 9-3 team. I don't think they go 8-4, even though that's the joke that Jimbo Fisher has more 8-4 seasons than anybody in college football history. But yeah, give me Texas A&M. I have this 10-2 teams. Give me an overall.
Yeah, I obviously have the over on this. This Texas A&M team is loaded with talent from top to bottom, with probably the most insane recruiting class we have seen in years. The only game that I have them as an 11-1 team. The only game I have them losing is Alabama. I have them winning literally every single game. They're not necessarily all blowouts like I do with Alabama, but I do have them still winning every game. You can see the scores here. I mean, I do have them in a close stretch and right after Alabama against South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Florida. I do have all those games pretty close, but I still have them blowing out Auburn. Auburn's a terrible team. I'm sorry, I don't like Auburn. I don't like Brian Harsin either. The guy's not a good coach. This Texas A&M team, though, fantastic team, fantastic players. Haynes King has been named the starting quarterback for Texas A&M. So, incoming freshman Connor Weidman and LSU transfer Max Johnson will be backups to Mr. Haynes King, the starter from last year, who got hurt early in the year and was not able to play. But this is a fantastic A&M team. I have 11. I easily have 11-1, and really they have a good. They could possibly knock off the Crimson Tide, but I still have that as a Alabama win by 7.
Fair enough. Now we move on to Razorbacks.
I have Ole Miss. We can do Arkansas though.
We'll do Arkansas next. I have the Arkansas Razorbacks. They Cincinnati, and then they play South Carolina and Missouri State before going on the road to take on Texas A&M. Then they go home against Alabama, and then they take on a 3-game road stretch with Mississippi State, BYU. Then they take their bye week before going on the road to Auburn. Then they play Liberty and LSU at home. Actually, they play Liberty, LSU, and Ole Miss at home before going on the road to Missouri. I have their win total is set at 7.5. I have them going over that at 8-4. I have their 4 losses being at A&M, Alabama, at Mississippi State, and at Auburn. Maybe they trip up against Missouri. Maybe they lose the Ole Miss game. The Ole Miss game is kind of a 50-50. I have it 44-41. I favor the home team. I think they could definitely go under 7.5. Is a good number, but I do have them as an 8-4 team.
All right, and I believe I have Arkansas as over as well. Oh yeah, I do. I have them as a 9-3 team this year. Arkansas
losing every game that I have them losing besides the Auburn game.
Yeah, I have them winning against Auburn. Their losses are Texas A&M, Alabama, and Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, that makes sense.
Ole Miss will be I have that one as a very close loss, being at home. And then, fun fact about that Texas A&M game is actually technically a neutral site, as it's actually at AT&T Stadium. But that still doesn't make a difference. And I do have, Alabama blowing Arkansas off the face of the earth. But I mean, this is a solid Arkansas team. They should have a good season. That Cincinnati game early in the year will be a tricky one for them. I do have them winning it by 10, but this should be a good season for the Razorbacks. I think they should have some fun this year.
Fair enough. And now we go to the Ole Miss Rebels, who I also have a for just like the last one. They start the season with Arkansas, then on the road against Georgia Tech before winning up in the conference against Tulsa. Then they take on number 20 Kentucky, and then they go on the road to Vanderbilt. Then they play Auburn at home before going on a road stretch at LSU and at Texas A&M. Before then going on their bye and then playing Alabama and at number 19 Arkansas and Mississippi State. I have them starting the season out 7-0 and then losing 4 straight in that stretch of LSU, A&M, Alabama, and Arkansas. So I do have them finishing at 8-4. The win total is just like Arkansas, 7.5. So I will go over. I just don't see them losing any other team on their schedule besides those four games. They might even win one of those games. They might beat LSU or might upset Arkansas. I really don't know, but I do have them as an 8-4 team. And like I said, 7-0, then a 4-loss stretch before winning the last game.
All right, and then for me, I have well over that 7.5 mark, as I have Ole Miss at 10-2. This is a good Ole Miss team. I like the transfers they got in. They got both Zach Evans and Jackson Dart in as 2 brand new transfers. Jackson Dart, freshman from USC, big time talent, and then Zach Evans, transfer from TCU, also a big time talent. So I think those two will factor into replacing the offense that Ole Miss lost last year. As Ole Miss's losses, I have those as A&M and Alabama. I have them edging out both Kentucky and Arkansas, and I have them just barely beating Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. That should be very fun. I have them also just knocking off LSU. I'm not the biggest fan of the LSU Tigers. They're a decent team, but they're not anything great. I think Ole Miss will win that game. I have them actually going 8-0 to start the year, and then they lose two straight to A&M and Alabama. But this is going to be a good season, I think, for Ole Miss. I could definitely see them going under 10-2, but I got them as a double-digit win team this year.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Who do you have next? Because I know you don't have the team that I have next.
Oh, because you probably have Auburn. Yeah, so I have LSU up next.
I have the LSU against Florida State and Southern.
Just Southern.
I literally just have it listed as Southern.
Yeah, it's just Southern. That's why I have to.
And you've got Mississippi State before taking on New Mexico State, and then you've got on the road against Auburn. You've got Tennessee at Florida before going home against the 24th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Crimson Tide and on the road against Arkansas, and then you've got UAB and at number 6 Texas A&M. LSU has a total of, I just had it here and now I cannot find it. LSU is a round 7 games. I have them going under. I have them as a 6-16. My losses are going to be Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, Arkansas, and A&M. I think they could definitely win a couple of those games. Like I think they're going to be in the game again. I think they could very easily win the game against Auburn. I think they could very easily win the game against Auburn. That's about it. I think very easily against Tennessee too. No, they could definitely go over, but I have them at 6-6.
And over under is just like 7 on the dot.
About 7. So if it's 7, it's a push.
All right.
So you can say if you have it at 7-5, you can say push.
I actually have them as a 6-6 team, so I'm going with 6-6 as well for LSU. I don't remember what all these ones I put in are. I put these in probably about a couple weeks ago. I don't really remember what I have for each team. I know Auburn's not good for me, but LSU, I do have them as a 6-6 team. As I said, they're an average squad, not fantastic in any way, shape, or form, but I do have LSU being, just an average team. Their first loss is actually at Auburn for right now. I might have had that as a win originally. I might have changed that, but I have it as a 1-point win for the Auburn Tigers, 28-27. And the other losses are Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. So makes a lot of sense. But this should be. This LSU team is decent. They won't have a great season, but they'll have at least one good enough. So yeah, I think 500, 6-6, a bowl game is perfectly fine for LSU.
I would assume Mississippi State's next for you.
No, I have Auburn next.
Okay, so he has Auburn next. So we have Auburn. They start the season against Mercer, San Jose State, Penn State, and Missouri. They start on five home games. Mercer, San Jose State, Penn State, Missouri, and LSU going on the road to Georgia. We're going home to take on Arkansas, on the road against Mississippi State, and then at home against Texas A&M and Kentucky before going on the road to take on number 1 Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Auburn has, I believe, a 6.5 win total. They have a 6.5 win total. I do have them, I think, just going for just for the sake of the fact that they have a lot of their 50-50 games at home. I think this is very easily going to go under because the toss-up games, Penn State, Missouri, Penn State, Missouri, and LSU. That 3-game stretch right there is huge. Those are going to be huge. I have them winning all 3 of those because I have them at home, but I don't know. They might lose those games. And then I do think, looking back at it, they probably Texas A&M change that. Again, SEC was one of the first statutes that so I just don't have all the information on it. I think narrowly edged out a win against Arkansas, so I have them probably as a 7-5 team, but could very easily be 6-6 or below. It's just, I don't know what this team is. This team is just could be decent or could be really fun.
Yeah, I actually have Auburn as a 6-6 team, so I have them just going under. I probably should have them actually ahead of LSU, but I guess I changed it and forgot to move them over. But I have them as a 6-6 team, just making a bowl game. This program's in a lot of turmoil with all the issues of Brian Harson and all the investigations into the program, and the team itself just isn't really that special either. Zach Calzada transferred over from Texas A&M to compete with TJ Finley for the starting job, but Finley was the one who ended up getting it. So we'll see how Auburn plays, but I think their losses for me are Penn State, Georgia, Ole Miss, Arkansas, A&M, and Alabama.
Fair enough. It's really like I said. What's going to happen is going to be Penn State is one of the biggest ones. Penn State is pretty much going to decide if they go over or under.
Yeah, that in that Penn State game I have a 17-7, so it's gonna be low scoring.
Oh no, that's going to be a very low scoring game. Like 20-17. It's going to be a very low scoring game. And we finish out with the Mississippi State Bulldogs. They start the season at home against Memphis before going on the road to Arizona and LSU. Come back home to take on Bowling Green, Texas A&M, and Arkansas before going on the road to take on Kentucky and Alabama. For being home against Auburn, Georgia, Eastern Tennessee State, and then going on the road for Ole Miss. Mississippi State's win total is at. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. 6.5 points on the win total. I have them going under that. I have them as a 6-16, just because in SEC you literally just have to win 2 conference games to go bowling. I have them beating Auburn, and I have them beating Arkansas. I also State. I have their losses as LSU, A&M, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss. Again, that's the easy part about the SEC bowling. They have that Week 12 cupcake game. So, giving Mississippi State at 6-6, definitely under.
Yeah, me for Mississippi State, I am actually well under. Oh, I put it as over. Heck, I have well under for Mississippi State as I have 4-8. I think they go 0-8 in the SEC. This Mississippi State team got brutal draws for literally all their games. I mean, all the SEC games at LSU, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, Bama. Not probably winning any of those games. I do like Arkansas. I don't think they win at home.
The two teams they picked, the 2 teams they drew from the East were Kentucky and Georgia.
Yeah, that's really brutal. And really, the only game that I could probably see them winning out of the SEC, and they got Ole Miss on the road. The only game I can really see them winning in the SEC is Auburn at home. And I have that probably as like the closest one. Yeah, I have 44-38 Auburn in that game. But I think this Mississippi State team is definitely not, I think, a 4-8 team. But due to the schedule that they have, I don't know if they can really overcome the schedule that they got. Thus, all their draws are really brutal. So I do have 4-8. I do have low for Mississippi State.
Fair enough, and that is the SEC win totals. Again, we have Alabama at the top. Yeah, Alabama, Texas A&M. We switch around Ole Miss and Arkansas together. We switch around Auburn and LSU together, and then Mississippi State squarely at the bottom. So, thank you all so much for watching. This was the SEC West. SEC East is on its way. We're going to do that right after this one. So, again, that's Mitch. This is Jacob. Go watch our Week 1 video and enjoy college football being back. Peace.
Adios.